Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome here. Welcome on stage. Please let me know if you can hear me. If somehow, somewhere I have some noise in the background, just send me a message or just like let me know in the chat. That way, I will know that the microphone will be working for this amazing session with Mope. Hi, Mope. How are you? How are you doing? Thank you for joining us. Please unmute yourself and say hello. Go ahead, Queen. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Marie. Hugs and kisses sent your way, and nice to see everyone. I'm really delighted to be here.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you, first of all, Mope, for your time, commitment for this session, but most importantly, to making yourself available to give us as much insight and information when it comes to how to actually start up, right? And hopefully, while we're here, we can continue to learn from each other as well. All right. So, hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have all of you. I know it is Saturday. It is 2 p.m. 2 p.m. my time, and I'm guessing 1 p.m. or either 3 p.m. for others who are either as well based in Africa. And for those who are based in other parts of the world, it's either morning or afternoon or evening for you as well. So welcome and thank you for your commitment for the next 2 hours to this session. And for those who may not know me, I am Marie, an early stage investor. I am one of the leaders when it comes to the Noah Diaspora platform, but also pretty much just an expert hoping to help founders to really build and guide them when it comes to building a strong foundation. Joining me today is an amazing Mope for those who have known her. You have met her first time somewhere on Clubhouse a couple years ago where she was launching her amazing platform when it comes to the different accelerator program that Venture Next actually offer. By now, if you have managed to continue to network with her, you know by now that she is just an amazing expert to have, an amazing person to know. But most importantly, she's just a master when it comes to her craft. She's a managing partner, at Africa Global Core VC firm. She is a champion when it comes to women-led startups and women-led investment. When it comes to business transformation, she has been a specialist, an expert of that for the last over 25 years now. But I'm not going to say much about that. I'm going to allow Mopi to introduce herself so that we can kickstart this session. Mopi, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Marie, for that, very generous introduction. I truly appreciate that. And well, there's lots of work to be done, so I really don't feel I've even done so much. But just by way of introduction, yes, my name is Mope Abudu. I'm actually speaking to you today from Lagos, Nigeria, which is the base. But I think I probably would say I'm a citizen of the world. I move around quite a bit. But very, very interested in the African rising concept, particularly when it comes to startups. My background has been in finance, but I found myself in very varied positions, both corporate as well as an entrepreneur, and now an investor and business transformation, I would like to say, specialist. And I'm very interested in how Africa has, I would say, the key to the solutions, the key to the challenges that we find ourselves. And that's really because we are so gifted in terms of our innovation, in our way of thinking, probably because we haven't always had everything at our fingertips. So that has allowed us to think differently, to come up with solutions that are not always the mainstream. We're extremely entrepreneurial. And what I feel is my mission is to support innovators, entrepreneurs, challengers, disruptors who are looking to provide world-class solutions both to their local geographies, but also internationally where possible, and support in terms of giving them what I would call the street market product market fit, not only the textbook knowledge or the theory, the real street market, connect them to networks. And now, as Also, I head a venture capital fund with equity capital at the early stage, which is critical to make sure they are not just businesses but sustainable businesses. So that's a very quick intro about myself.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Mope, again for your time and commitment this afternoon. If you're new here, of course, as always, please make sure that you follow the Noah Diaspora platform so that you can stay informed of the session, the multi session that we have here. For those who are already here, you know how we do it. We meet here once a month, and when we are lucky enough, we have amazing experts here on stage teaching us, giving us more insight, and helping us pretty much just grasp the reality when it comes to building a strong foundation. I am always leading this early stage conversation because it is a must, it is necessary, and hopefully it continue to add value to the amazing founders who are out there building. And while you're here, please share the link in different groups that you are, especially the groups with entrepreneurs, so that we can all learn from each other as well. And of course, you are more than welcome to come on stage. This fireside chat is usually, as you know by now, is me firing questions to experts, right? In here and there. But usually it is always amazing to have founders coming up with questions either on stage to ask this question to the expert or just in the chat so that we can really somehow add value to your presence as you will be spending the next minimum 2 hours here with us. All right. The session is usually handled with 20 questions, and we really try our best usually to go through these questions as well. But then again, the questions are design and draft around the topic. The topic of today is how to accelerate startups, right? And of course, the best practices insight from industry leaders. And one of the industry leaders when it comes to early stage startups, when it comes to pre-seed startups and seed startup on the content is Mope Abudu. So welcome again, Queen. Thank you for your time, commitment, and the space. So I would love for us to kickstart a little bit. I'm happy that you were able to share some background, and pretty much just also, highlight how you have gotten involved in the startup space pretty much. But then another question for you, of course, because you are an investor, you are an expert, and for the last couple of years, you have also managed to guide and support a startup through accelerator program. When it comes to that, can you maybe share a little bit of background on the reason of why you got involved with the space? Please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Um, well, I'll tell you why why I got in. Prior to the accelerator and the fund, I was running and still running a consultancy, which is very business advisory, but it was really targeted more at the large corporate institutions, businesses that were already very well established and were probably looking for maybe things like expansions or the rest of them, and sometimes also working with even you know public sector institutions. But what I found was sometimes, even in such large businesses, it almost killed what I have always felt was entrepreneurship. In those cases, it should have been entrepreneurship, where you would allow ideas to flow. So I sometimes I got frustrated with the bureaucracy or the slowness to challenge status quo, or the willingness to chat, to start, to come up with new ideas. Now, at the long side, I was always kind of informally supporting young individuals. And in the past 10 years, technology has been such an igniter of how ideas could take off. And the more I started really, working with, young individuals who are using technology, now we have a term for them. We call them technology enabled, businesses. I was extremely drawn to it, but it still had to draw on what has always been our business advisory support. Now, in my early days, I was also, a programmer. I used to write codes, but I think I found my calling at the sweet spot between business and technology. So I actually found that sometimes the young startups were technology gurus. They love to just code and come up with fantastic solutions. And I call them the creatives. They take so much pride just looking at, their ideas. But they weren't clothing these ideas with a proper business solution. And I dare say a business solution that will work in Africa. So sometimes I even came across extremely brilliant, I would like to call them founders, but they were not ticking the box of how to make it a business, something that would continually resonate with the market. They were able to put on paper the statistics, the theory of what will make their solution viable. But when it came to the actual implementation of, okay, the market is XYZ million or however trillion, how exactly will you get it? And I found that most of the accelerators that we had, I wouldn't name names, but very popular ones, were saying all the right things, but were not hand holding the startups enough, particularly those coming from the African terrain, because our infrastructure foundations are different from the West. Our utility use is different. Talk about Nigeria. We don't have power consistently, but guess what? We still find creative ways of doing things. So I was driven to have an accelerator that will be African focused, identifying the challenges, as we like to call it, the headwinds, the macro headwinds that we find ourselves, but still being able to navigate it. And I coined the word the street MBA because most of us are extremely opportune to have had the exposure, elsewhere. But we find that when it comes to really, really implementing ideas, sometimes you have to put aside those theories and be very, very granular with how you would do it. So Night Ventures was um, thought of to be an accelerator that would focus primarily on the African market, how you would enter the market, how you would grow, how you would create market entry and penetration and sustenance, because it's not just entry. You need to sustain throughout. How you would be able to be extremely nimble when it came to competition, whether local or foreign, when it came to building sustainable businesses, because an idea needed to be um, packaged to attract all kinds of capital. And when I say all kinds of capital, it's not just financing capital, even human capital or social capital or economic capital. And, so the accelerator was going to be something that was by Africans for Africans. But guess what? These solutions could also be create footprints in the international scenes and, possibly teach a thing or two. So that was what really created my interest. I loved the way technology was providing scalability. It was also creating transparency to make sure that all stakeholders, whether it was regulatory, whether it was customers, whether it was financing partners, could be able to see the potential and create, bigger businesses beyond just mom and pop kind of ideas. So that really was what got me into that area.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for the detail, but as well for the insight that you have been able to share here with us. For those who are listening again, welcome, welcome on stage, welcome here. It's amazing having all of you. In the chat, I've quickly shared a survey just to know how many accelerator program few of you have managed to do so far since you have become a founder when it comes to that, right? As you know already, the Fireside chart has over 20 questions. These questions are divided under different segments. So we have managed to be lucky enough to really go through the introduction and the background of Miss Mope Abudu. We will be going about understanding the accelerators, aspect of things. We will talk about the best practices for startups, pretty much. We will touch a little bit about mentorship and guidance, funding and an investment will also be part of our questions. We will talk a little bit about market navigation, building a strong team, innovation, and growth. And of course, it's always great to have some success stories and lesson learned when it comes to that. And then we'll be closing with future of accelerator. And of course, we're going to have another, if we have time, we're going to have two other closing questions. Those are usually two extra questions for us to really, I would say, touch down everything that is related to the topic of how to accelerate startups, especially when it comes to African startups. All right. So please bear with us. Stay here. Send in your questions, but ideally come on stage if you have any questions. Raise your hand, and I will, put you here on stage, and then you can ask your question directly to Miss Mope Abudu. All right. So on that note, let's move to understanding accelerator. So, Mope, in your opinion, right, what distinguishes successful startup accelerator from others? I know that you have managed to highlight how you started and pretty much just also the absence of the lack, I would say, some type of expertise that you have managed to see when you were building, Venture Unite. But I'm quite curious to know when it comes to really just having a distinguished, successful accelerator, you know, what makes it different compared to others in general, regardless of the context of Africa?
Thanks. So, um, when I first of all started, and everyone goes through reiterations, just like founders. So, even when I started the accelerator, I counted myself as a founder, so to speak, because you had to understand. And um, what I felt was being um, thrown about was the word accelerator. And to me, I felt there were really different stages. Initially, when we started, we had a whole lot of interest. But within that interest, I was able to dissect that some people were still at what we know as the incubation stage, and some were at the acceleration stage. And it was very important that, we were very clear about where we felt we could support intentionally, and then be able to attract the right kind of pipeline of startups in terms of their stage. So I felt the word incubation and accelerator was somewhat used interchangeably, but um, it meant that your output sometimes wasn't always very clear. Now, for me, acceleration was really at the word. It's like you're running 100 meters race. You have actually been training. You are already somewhat good enough to be put at the starting line to then take off. So we try to make sure that with the kind of support that we had, we would be able to give value, because in anything, the value proposition had to be clear. And for us, acceleration meant that you were really ready to take off. And that taking off in business for us meant that you probably already have the solution, but the solution has not yet been tested. You want to be supported to make sure that you could enter the market properly. You could then accelerate with the right midwifery support. And for us, the midwifery support wouldn't just be learning the technical terms, but applying the technical terms. So at the incubation, you will probably be hearing theoretically, what is your customer acquisition cost? What is your month run rate? What is your what is your burn rate, or things like that? Which means that you actually have to have some degree, no matter how small it is, and then we can actually support it. And what I also found was that sometimes networks is really, really the key. And we dissected networks to be sometimes you need off takers. Maybe if you're at your beta stage of your business, you've done the at least the first level of technology solution, but your beta stage is going to give you feedback from the market to let you know whether it's acceptable, whether your product is actually resonating with the customer base that you're targeting, whether they're really ready to part with money, because that's when it becomes a business. Just having an idea and no one is ready to part with money means it's still a hobby, or it's still a passion. It becomes a business when people are ready to part with money, and consistently, not one-offs. So the acceleration for us would be, who would be the off takers, who would be the massive beta market to test this solution, who would be potential partners where the value chain of your solution is secured rather than thinking you stand as an island. So, acceleration for us was going to be very boots on the ground. Let me use that word. It wasn't meant to be a theoretical kind of situation. And so, what we decided to do was we needed to select businesses that could benefit from it. And our selection process meant identifying what stage the business was in. Could we actually have some comfort in the technology solution that they have? It probably wasn't even perfect, and I dare say even the acceleration would prove whether you needed iteration 2 or iteration 3 of your technology solution, your market, where exactly are they willing to pay? Let's look at your pricing, and not theoretical. Let's go out there and see, how they would pay. Let's look at the kind of collaborative corporate institutions that you may be able to have in your bouquet of clientels that will push you to that point of really understanding. So what we found other accelerators were doing were paying quite a lot to the theory. We still do that, but we downplay that aspect and become very hands-on. So it was almost becoming your fractional business support on a very one-on-one, and accountability, because you had to have your as is position and your to be position at the end of the accelerator. And at the end of the program, you should really know what what you've gained and how you have actually positioned yourself within that market. So we felt Africa startups needed that. They were somehow not always privileged to have those kind of networks to create it. Um, just because you didn't go to university in Africa doesn't mean that you shouldn't have access to knowledge, information, exposure, and the rest of them. And we wanted to create that very safe but very enabling environment for the business to actually take off from the starting line and get to the finish line, not truncate halfway at the 50 meters yard, but get to the end of the 100 meters, and hopefully even win the prize at the end of it.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. And of course, as we look into your profile, you have almost a perfect profile, right? Because as a business transformation specialist, you know quite well how to transform a business from early stage to be able to scale the business and to even prepare the business to exit, right? And then on top of that, you have managed to, as a accelerator director, you manage a cannot venture on a on a day-to-day basis pretty much in helping select great potential startups out there who are solving I will say the African problems. And then on top of that, being a managing director in one of the VC firm out there called Africa Global, Africa Global Call, it allows you to really have access to uh, to pretty much just have a complete picture, right, of what can be done and how that should be done when it comes to the African continent, especially for startups that are either navigating the pre-seed, seed run, and sometimes even startups that are navigating early stage as well. So when it boring down all of that, right? Can you maybe even give us more information? How do you select startup for your accelerator program, right? When it comes to that, and what are the key quality, do you look for in a startup and founder? Please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Marie. And that question, as simple as it sounds, is really the key to um, how successful you could be. It all starts at the very beginning. So our selection, and I dare say we've gotten better. Did we get it right from day one? No, but each one meant we were able to refine our selection process, to make sure that we can almost potentially have a guaranteed output at the end of it. Now, having understood, like I mentioned before, what we felt acceleration should be. We were very particular about the kind of um, outreach that we had, where we would actually get them, the kind of initial questions that would give us an indication of whether this person met our um, criteria in terms of their stage of development as well as the solution that they had. So, first of all, the accelerator is sector agnostic, but critically, technology must play a very huge part of whatever solution you have or whatever industry you're in. And that really is because at the end of the day, we want to be able to see how um, the business can be scaled. We want businesses to be ambitious, but not stupidly ambitious, but ambitious in terms of creating growth at the end of it. And we felt technology was very important. So we would first of all tick that box. How is technology playing within your solution? It may even be a typical industry, whether it's retail or whatever it is. But we wanted to see your appreciation of how technology could enable this business to grow in future. Maybe even it's just doing a little bit right now. We would look for that. We would also look at how you are looking at that particular industry in which you're playing and the kind of, um, you know, immediate and short term aspirations of how you feel this industry should go. Because the mindset of the founder would enable us realize whether is this someone who really intends to um, grow beyond their locality? Are they looking to be a a positive disruptor? I wouldn't say a negative disruptor, a positive disruptor. To create linkages with um, other sectors, um, more markets in different areas, and just generally improve how that industry is actually performing. Then we would ask, around how the founder sees their business. And this really gave us insights into the thinking of, the founder. How are they do they intend to build a business or an institution, or do they just want to be just in their comfort zone? And that really is because if you want to invest your time in terms of accelerating a business, the founder also needs to come to the table equitably to be able to be vulnerable to say, look, these are where my issues are, but this is where I want to be, and then we can jointly work together. So we also try and see how the founder thinks. Are they trying to build an institution around it? It doesn't have to be large, just in terms of their willingness to have processes, and processes don't need to be cumbersome, but processes that will enable growth to actually happen rather than hinder it. And then we will look at their team structure. Is this someone who currently is just a one man band or already has a team? How are they picking the team? And this is extremely important because we have found that even the greatest of ideas, implementation, without the right team to implement it, that great idea would just stay, buried under a haystack. So we wanted to see the kind of team that they had or were looking to engage with, so that the accelerator program was not just dumping information in one person, but maybe at least a team of two or three or four, so that they could spread their wings and make sure that the potential of successful outputs are a bit more guaranteed than one person. One person would burn out. The acceleration program will burn you out. And guess what? You even still need to have your day to day and your life and your family and everything. So we wanted to look out for that. And we highly encourage at least two founders, or at a minimum, to come on board, or at least the willingness to engage that. And then last of all, we want to see how much of your skin is in the game. This are early indicators. And, they're subtle, but they're early indicators. You want to accelerate, you want to grow. Is it something that is burning within you, or is it something that someone is just telling you to do and you're just doing it because after some time you may decide to quit out of it? So we want to make sure that we're working with people who want to go the long mile. And the reason being is that Africa has so many unpredictable headwinds that will constantly challenge your willingness to go forward. It's never easy, but that grit, that intentionality to still navigate the very awkward maze of the African terrain with your great solution is very, very important. And if you want to be great, then don't expect an easy ride. So we try and evaluate the person's grit as much as you can. Sometimes you can't really be 100%, you know, perfect, but you will actually understand that. Then we look at your technology solution, because that, or well, your solution generally, your solution is really, really, really key. How does this translate into a value proposition that the market really needs? Okay. This is the core. But guess what? You have to peel, it's like peeling an onion. There's so many other layers that will get there. And if that solution, um, even at that stage, entices and we can see in a couple of years' time this would be a game changer, then we would love to hear it. And then I dare say, unapologetically, I would be looking out to see if a woman is involved. I love to see where there's a balance of female and male genders on it. Even it would be great if it was led by a woman, but I'm an equal person, and that really is jokes apart, because I think both genders bring different perspectives. Like I said, it's a hard job. Women look at things from different dimensions. There's intuition, they're just different ways of looking at opportunities. They will look at risk as well. While our fellow gentlemen are very ambitious as well and they go ahead. But that's not to say that these traits are specific to any gender. Once you, whoever has it, whether the lady has the ambition and the guy has the other aspects, it's just to create a bit of a balance. So I particularly look out for that. I highly encourage it. And that really is because I am also intentional about making sure the accelerator is accelerating a pipeline of businesses where women are actively involved at the decision making stage, to create a better future workforce and environment going forward. So those are a few things we'll look out for.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. And I hope that for those who are founders listening in, interested to join in a Accelerator program, really, grasp a little bit what the requirement will be when it comes to your program. But most importantly, when it comes to key quality that every founder should have. I'm so excited about this. I know that we have been, taking much of your time this Saturday, but please bear with us. We're going through the questions and hopefully we will be able to add value to you when it comes to this Saturday. So let's talk about best practices for startups, right? Now, you have, with this, years of experience, and of course, also you involved in the startup ecosystem. What are the common challenges you see startup face in the early stages, and how can they overcome them?
Okay, so many, so many challenges. So many challenges. Everything from not even facing the reality of what it means to be a founder. And I say this with all, humility. Some people have found themselves in this position out of a lack of depth of understanding of what it would take out of them. And that has led to so many issues. So when your purpose for becoming a founder is not really extremely, is not laid on a very sound foundation, then that journey would, you know, give you twists and turns that you may just not survive. Now, beyond that, some of the problems I see founders also going is the balance between having an idea and making that idea, um, a business. Just having an idea is really, really, there's no big deal, and it's almost like you're busting the bubble of someone who has it, because frankly, sometimes I think, is there really anything new under the sun? Um, I can guarantee you that if you're thinking about it, someone somewhere, whether locally or internationally or whatever, is probably also thinking about it. What makes it different is what you do with it and how you move, with it. So some founders have a little bit of and I'll be very frank, a bit of an entitlement spirit where they just think, oh, I have this idea, so XYZ. Well, it could be a great idea, but it would just stay as an idea if you don't really do, something with it, and that's why I call it implementation. Some other problems founders have are, working with either partners or collaborators, and that stifles their growth as much as, and I'm wearing two hats. I'm also, a venture capital investor. As much as capital is extremely important, before you have packaged yourself to access venture capital, you have to look at other means of funding yourself. And you'll be surprised how partnerships or collaborations could come in different forms to finance your business. It may not even be hard cash. So founders need to understand the power of networking. They need to understand the power of um, opportunity. Identifying opportunity. When you have discussions, are you really just talking, or are you, how is your head playing to identify the opportunity? It may be a really murky idea. First of all, it's not very crystal clear, but if you go at it, it may help. And then obviously, capital. Capital is a huge, huge, huge problem that founders have. But capital at the right stage and at the right level. Some people have been opportune to have access to huge amounts of capital, but the negotiations were probably ill-informed, and they've got themselves in a very difficult situation where what should have been a great moment has turned into a thorn in the flesh. Some founders have even had their businesses taken away too early because they have not really understood, how to negotiate, when they're looking for funding. And then on the other side, some founders, and I'll be very frank, in the past few years, are not disciplined enough. And I think as an investor, let me just borrow this. It is extremely important that no matter how great it is, you have to be disciplined, you have to be transparent. We've seen a few very sad cases where even with funding, the businesses have not gone round. And that has left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth of investors. So founders need to think about all their different stakeholders before they access capital. So there are a mirage of issues, and anyone who is thinking of becoming a founder needs to understand that it is a roller coaster. When you're on the floor and you're looking at people on the roller coaster, it looks like they're having so much fun. They're screaming, their hands are up in the air, they're all smiling, this and that and everything. When you get on that roller coaster, you will have highs, you will have lows, you will have twists, you will have turns. Sometimes you'll be praying, I need this thing to end right now, but guess what? It's still going on. And sometimes you'll feel like you're touching the sky. It is really a roller coaster. So founders really need to understand, are they cut out for it? If you get to the end of that roller coaster, and you step out, you can, walk with swag, as we like to say in Nigeria, that you conquered that roller coaster. But entrepreneurship and founders need to understand that it's never a smooth ride.
Excellent, excellent. While on the subject, can you maybe share some best practice for startups to prepare for accelerator programs?
Yes, very, very important. Come with your best foot forward, which means, first of all, study the requirements if the requirements are publicized and speak to those requirements very clearly. Have your formal pitch and informal pitch ready. Your formal pitch is really your document, which will be, most likely the first point of contact. It doesn't have to be too lengthy, but speak to, the real issues that you're talking about, and very quickly showcase, how this idea is translating or intends to translate to a solution. And then be very clear about where you need some support. You'd be surprised that when you're applying to accelerators, people just think it should only be the good things. Come up with what exactly you need, because the accelerator can then see whether you really need support at that time or not. In addition, your verbal pitch. Try and practice how you can create interest if there's going to be a verbal interview. We definitely have a verbal interview, because sometimes the pitches look so pretty, and we know we don't, there's a whole lot more behind that. We want to see the people behind. So your verbal pitch too is extremely important. But create a data room. Um, Even if you're not yet seeking funds, create a data room with anything that you think will show your state of readiness, your team, their profiles, what you've done, um, the progress that you've made so far. Create that data room so that in assessing your state of readiness for the accelerator, you can actually, showcase that you've done a bit of homework, and celebrate your little wins as well. Um, I know from being a founder myself that sometimes it looks like you haven't achieved anything, but yeah, you actually put it. So put pen to paper and have all of these things sorted, and then it will be helpful if you can showcase what you have invested, whether money, time, or whatever, because um, acceleration means you too need to roll up your sleeves, even though you'll be guided. Put that up front so that, the accelerator team can view what you have put in or your team has actually put in as well. And then be ready to assimilate knowledge. You need to showcase in terms of how you ask your questions. Um, if we get a feeling like you are just absorbing and you're not really contributing, unfortunately, that is not a very good indicator. So showcase your readiness to learn, to even contribute, different ideas, and that shows, the kind of person you probably will be when you get into a cohort with other founders who may be in the same industry or different industry, and how you really are intending to support that market that you're trying to solve. Or are you just a me, this is only for myself, once my bank account is okay, I'm off? It's very important. At least that's what we would assess.
Thank you so much. That is amazing. Thank you again for your time and commitment this afternoon, Mope. Let's talk about mentorship and guidance, right? I know that that is a key component when it comes to when it comes to founders and accelerator program. So, how important is mentorship in the success of a startup? And how do you ensure that startup in your program receive effective mentorship? Please go ahead, the floor is yours.
Okay, so again, we too have learned that the mentorship has got to be. You almost need to measure, or at least initially have clear objectives of what you want to get out of it. I'm a process person, so maybe that has influenced me. And I won't say even we started out with that. We kind of just thought, mentorship, yeah, someone should just be attached to the person and talk to the person. But we realized that the value that we wanted to get could only be served if we were very clear about stating upfront what is expected, identify critical matrix that will be used to assess whether those objectives were met, and then kind of define what the outcome would be. But we've also found that there's a slight, well, maybe rightly or wrongly, difference between a mentor and an advisor. And it may just be playing on words. Maybe, I think sometimes, my head also plays tricks on me. The mentor for us is someone who's in the industry, probably has been in the industry for some time, has many white shirts to show in terms of failures and successes, and a bit of influence as well, in terms of, oh, you need to know this person, you need to get in touch with this person, just kind of does a bit of, networking, and then you can bounce ideas on. And when I say bounce ideas, sometimes not even only um, the business ideas. I was a mentor to someone, and in fact, we spent more time on the individual, because that individual was burnt out and just couldn't produce. So we try and make sure that the profile of the mentor, in terms of their industry expertise, understanding, net worth, and alignment with the founder's expectations, is done. A matching has to be done. And then we educate the mentor on the needs, the objectives of the mentoring, and what they expect to get at the end of it. And likewise with the founder, we give guidelines in terms of respect of time, respect of meeting the obligations that the mentor may ask of, and do that. However, when it comes to what I call the roll up your sleeves support on the founder's actual business, we felt we needed someone who would really take time and, you know, dissect that business, almost like a fractional person. And we felt that person is an advisor. Obviously, this is not a paid employee, but the accelerator will have to look at things like that. Is it your pricing that is not going well? Let's look at. You almost go to an Excel sheet and you actually start looking at where is it going wrong. Your cost is too high, or this product, let's roll out with version 1. Let's have a model that is a freemium model, and then what will a premium, that level of granular issue may be, for us, and now seems to be best served with what we call advisors, who would be a bit more in tune with it. Mentors are mentors. They would mentor you. It's more abstract. They will guide you. They will tell you, look, there's a hole in front of you. Avoid that pit hole. But they're not really going to be in your business, so to speak. So for us, we were probably initially saddling our mentors with this, but these mentors are also very busy executives. They have their own time, and we couldn't expect them to do things like that. So we've seen that the two serve a different purpose, and then that accountability of, did you do this week? What were your numbers this week? The advisor would be the person who is chief whip. Um, so chief whip on one hand, and then the spa treatment from the mentor, so to speak.
Excellent, excellent. In that case, can you maybe also provide an example of a startup that significantly benefits from your mentorship within your accelerator program, regardless of what the startup is based, of course?
Well, I'd like to say all of them. I like to say all of them are benefiting, but yeah, and I'm being very transparent here. The earlier days, we learned a whole lot more. Um, but I would say maybe even those at the earlier days, we're also seeing the need for alumni support. The accelerator program is, maximum 4 months. Can you really transform into a golden gem within 4 months? Mm, maybe not entirely. It could be possible, but not entirely. So we also know that even post acceleration, we need to support our alumni, and we actually want to intentionally do this so we follow their progress. But um, well, we have quite a few businesses. I would say one of them that we're quite proud. I think is even from Cote d'Ivoire. Um, we changed the whole business model. And I think that for me was a readiness to even be receptive of something like that might have initially been he he felt, oh, he had the right one, but he was so receptive to a business model change, total change. And we worked with him. We showcased and proved that maybe you should try this because the market that you're trying to serve seems to want XYZ. Based on that, this business, which was in the health tech, went on to GITEX, I think, in last year, and won second prize in one category and first prize in I can't really remember the categories, based on this business model and the way he was positioned. Now, we worked on different aspects, both on the technology, on the business, and even on the business model for revenue generating. We created low hanging fruits, which would create annuity income. We understood some of the areas would take some time. And we played implementation to what you learn in MBA. You have your cash cows, you have your stars, you have the different aspects. Some were just for publicity. That doesn't necessarily mean that they were the income earning streams of income or channels. So this meant a total overhaul of what they did. Yet the solution was still being delivered, but in a different way. Um, this business has gone on to get equity from and this was before we set up the venture fund, which is another reason why we decided, after all the support and everything, they became the attractive bride to VCs or underfunders, and we felt, well, maybe we too should actually be the rubber stamp first check early stage investors if we have supported these businesses going forward. That's an example. This business has actually gone on and they've created an expansion into two other um, African countries. And the journey is still on. They definitely haven't finished. Right now, we have a cohort of 7, and we already have potentially our next cohort ready in the pipeline as well. So it's a continuous support. That's just to give a slight example.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. Let's talk about the next important subject, especially for funders, right? Funding and investment. Usually, that is like the critical component for funders and questions that are related to that. What advice, now, of course, that you also are managing your own VC firm, what advice do you have for startup when it comes to securing funding during and after an accelerator program?
So this actually became even more crystal clear um, as we are running the accelerator. And this might sound strange, even coming from me, because I'm also an investor, but it became crystal clear that in some cases, not every single startup actually requires venture capital. Not everyone. And it's not a guarantee that just because you are a tech founder or whatever that uh, you must go and source for funding. There are so many other sources of funds, and because I'm a little bit conflicted whether I'm from the business. If I was wearing my business transformation cap, I'll say the cheapest form of finance are your customers. You know, that's really the cheapest form of finance. There, get your act together, your solution, they are guaranteed source of financing. But if I'm wearing my investment cap, yes, I'm like, okay, if you want to get financing, especially venture capital, then you need to present yourself in a particular way. So your business model has really got to be very crystal clear. And that is because attracting equity funding, particularly from institutional equity funding, um, or venture capital, early stage, or the rest of them, means you're not just getting the money, you're also giving up, part of your business, and it requires you to move from your extremely good comfort zone to a point where you're much more accountable. You need to. The saying goes, who he who pays the piper, um, determines the song to be played. So you have to be willing, and that willingness is something you need to look yourself in the mirror and be sure that you're ready to do. Um, and you need to do your own due diligence to make sure that you're getting in bed with the right kind of investors who would support your dream, but also they are investors. That word investors means they expect returns. And don't ever forget that. They expect returns. They don't expect excuses. They don't expect stories. They expect returns. So you need to dig, dig, dig deep to make sure that those returns can actually come through. However, um, getting, venture capital is a process. It's not a one-day thing, it's a process. It means you must be able to showcase not only by word of mouth, but in terms of action, your traction, what you're doing in the market to confirm to the venture capitalists that you have a solution that will that is very relevant for the time now and for a very long time going forward. So investors are putting money in, knowing fully well that, it's not a 6 months thing. Well, it could happen in 6 months, but it's, 2, 3, 4 years and above. And they constantly want to make sure that, the business is still relevant and commanding very good returns. So you start from revenue, and then after revenue, you get to profit, and then you become a very liquid business. So how you design your business is very important to allay the fears of investors. But investors are not going to just take your word; they're going to risk assess you, put in whatever controls, personnel, board representation, clauses or whatever it is to safeguard their investments. So you need to be structured in such a way that you can meet these demands. If not, you will feel suffocated. And that's why I said, before you go out, what's the team? You can't be the person who's on the market, yet you're the same person who's, doing the accounts and the rest. Mistakes will happen and you will burn out. So getting venture capital means that you have adopted some level of structure to provide the kind of information that they need. But before then, you have your angels and the rest, which might be more a handshake kind of investment, or at least not as detailed, but it's a good training ground for what you should be expecting at the VC stage. So documentation very important, reporting very important, tenacity to identify new um, revenue and profit streams extremely important. And at the same time, you're building an institution. How visible is it? How structured is it? How ethical and how relevant in terms of innovativeness is it in regards to other competition and the rest? So venture capital is good. You need to be ready for it because the demands will be there. And guess what? If you think that is hard, by the time you get to the PE stage, it's even harder. But I tell you, if you put in the work early, it can be a walk in the park.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for today. And thank you for those who are still here. Thank you for your time, commitment, pretty much as we go through this amazing session. And we really hope that we are adding value to you and are able to answer any questions that you may have around the topic. In the meantime, we have shared in the chat a quick survey for you to highlight how many accelerator programs you have managed to get in since you became a founder or an entrepreneur, right? And if you haven't done any, that's also fine, but just inform us and let us know as well. If you have any questions, please use the chat to ask these questions or come on stage to ask your questions. So while I am here, I'm going to continue with our next segment. So the next segment is market and navigation. This segment has two questions, and I think maybe we can make it a one question. So pretty much what for me is important is that if you will have to advise all the startups, like what strategy do you recommend for startup to identify and enter the target markets, right, successfully if possible? But then again, this depends on different situation, different funders, different problem, and also strategy that they may have when it comes to the market, right? And then the second question will be how should a startup approach competition and differentiate themselves in a crowded market? I think those two questions can be combined, because at the end of the day, it's all about being different, offering value compared to others in the market, but at the same time, making an impact when it comes to either solution of company that you are trying to launch. So I will allow you to phrase it and frame it as as you wish, and what information you would like to share with us here. Please go ahead. The floor is yours.
So yeah, market navigation is a it's a constant tinkering, because sometimes even what may have worked 5 years ago might need to be, relooked at and everything. But generally, um, your model would at least give some direction. So when we play around with the words, are you a B2C, are you a B2B, or are you a B2B2C, or are you a B2G, and all of those, acronyms that we use, they're all kind of um, possible ways of entering the market. Um, are you at the lower strata, at the micro strata? Are you at the mid size? Are you at the business? Are you at the governmental side? So, the way you want to enter the market and your solution have got to be in sync. So you can't really just say, I want to enter the market this way. Look at your solution. Is it a solution that is attractive? What caliber of audience in the market would be um, best suited to adopt your solution or your product or your service offering? Once you've been able to identify that, then the channel is how you want to define it. Is it something that you will build the channels, or are the channels already existing but maybe built by someone else? So are you going to leverage other people's channels and create a win-win solution with them to ride on those existing channels? Um, and when I talk about channels, are you going to be individually in the market, communicating and selling this? Are you going to be, you know, like a co-locating with others? When I say co-locating, just because, let me use a local, sometimes these things are not rocket science. In Africa, someone is selling beans and someone is selling bread, the local market, and you know that the customers always need bread and beans. So the person who has bread, rather than walking the streets up and down looking for, co-locates with the person selling the beans. And that strategy means that you're able to get, that market in one place. That's a very simple and very, but it works in the same business. Are you going to leverage channels, infrastructure channels that are already established? So your market navigation is really about identifying what might work best. And if there is nothing there and you need to create your own, yes, that is perfect as well. But you also need to cost it. What infrastructure foundation do you need to make that channel efficient, successful? Are you using technology to communicate as a medium of exchanging both the goods and services and payments? Um, are you a cross border kind of a business? Do you need so there are just so many different ways. But all in all, you can't be oblivious to some other bystanders. Um, what is policy saying about it? Are you going to be contravening any policy regulations as you try to be indigenous with your market entry? Are you even aware of what you need to understand? And don't think that what applies in one area applies in another. You need to do that thorough exercise to understand are the peculiarities about this particular place. What is the culture of these people? Sometimes culture also plays a bit of influence on how you want to penetrate a particular market. So startups, when we ask, what is your market assessment? It cannot be just a desk research, what you read on Twitter or what you read on Google. Have you really done some level of feasibility to understand all these new, have you tested, in a small sample, what will happen? And then for the players who are there currently, do you really know what their secret sauce is? Are they leveraging something that might not be obvious to the naked eye? Don't just make assumptions. You need to do a little bit of corporate espionage to find out how your competitors are working. Because if you go to the market thinking you're both, coming from the same starting point, you may just actually be surprised when you get to the market. So it is very important. If it's a competitor who already has a product which has already gained brand attention and they're riding on it, and you just want to enter, even if you have a lower price, you may not actually be as attractive because they have created a brand, they have some existing channels that they're already working on. So startups need to understand that just having a bright idea is not important. That word, product market fit, is so, so important. How will you situate your product offering within the market that you want? Um, how are you going to enter it? And then when you enter it, how are you going to stay there? There will be price wars, there'll be value wars, there'll be availability wars, there'll be, you know, how is your own value chain process to ensure that the business is good? It could be that your competitor and you have exactly the same product, but the difference might be the availability. Maybe your own supply chain is tighter, and not only are you able to ensure that your products are consistently there, that people feel there's a loyalty no matter what they're going to get it, um, or is it the transparency, or is it the duality of purpose that your product can look at? So market navigation requires market research as well as testing the market in terms of their ability to pay. The people that you're looking to use it, are they actually the payers? Do they have that capacity to pay consistently, or are they one-time subscribers and then you never see them? On the fintech stage, we see, I don't pay much attention to people who say we have so many subscribers. Some sign subscribers are psychophants. They're just there. They're not really spending money. They're not doing anything, you know. So that's not really attraction that we should be interested in. What are they spending? And are they increasing the spend on it? Then you know that there's a loyalty. And if you're not tracking indices like that, you may be fooled into thinking, I have XYZ number of subscribers. Guess what? They're not doing anything. So these are just some samples of market navigation.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. And I'm hoping that somehow, somewhere again, we continue to add value to those who are here in. So about building a strong team, I think everyone wonders sometimes how to do it, how to properly do it, how to retain, and pretty much how to build a strong team, right? Because at the end of the day, just like you emphasized early on, in your introduction is you have a great solution, but who is going to help you build that great solution? So, what are the key components of a strong startup team, and how can founders attract and retain top talent?
Well, just to let founders know, guess what the most problematic asset ever is? It's people. People are assets, but they're the most problematic, and that's just because we're humans. You know, we have emotions, we have ambitions, we have drives, and everything. So it is not easy, but that notwithstanding, as founders, you have to have a knack of attracting and retaining. And you won't always get it right at the first time, but you need to pay a lot of attention to it. Otherwise, um, you really just cannot do everything by yourself. At some point, you really do need a team. But what is more important is how you even sell what you have, the vision, to your team members. And that vision is about, do they really see what you're seeing? Do they see themselves in that vision? Do they see opportunity? Do they see fulfillment? Do they see prosperity? Do they see financial, you know, advancement? Does it align with their interest? You know, so you need to find a way to encapsulate all of this when you're trying to get a team, and you must consistently fuel this hope in them, and let it ginger them to put in 150%. At the startup stage, everyone is doing more than their job description. That is the reality. In fact, there's really no job. The job description at the startup stage is do everything. You don't really have the privilege of just saying, "Oh, this is my own little bit." Um, so you need to have people who have the capacity to wear double hats. Um, I've been a founder before. I've raised capital and everything, and this was a hobby turned business, you know. And I'll be out there, you know, speaking to international companies, and then I'll run back to, this was a family entertainment center, and I'll run to the kitchen. I'll be frying chips, and I'll be, you know, and I used to tell someone, I said I could make a beautiful cotton candy, um, you know, bit. So it's really just trying to make sure that the team that you have can see themselves doing so many different things. But that notwithstanding, um, you need to you need to make sure that your team see what you're seeing. They are ready to work and um, feel appreciated, more importantly. And when I say appreciated, it's not only just about the pay, because sometimes you may have to do things like part equity or ESOPs that will recognize their contribution and their time. And then after that, that sweat equity will become um, part of their funding, you know, into the business, especially if they haven't actually put in money by themselves. So that sweat equity must be documented, and you must be able to be transparent in what that actually means and at the right time. So building a team from co-founders to regular team members is a continuous process. You get better at it the more you communicate with them and you understand. But it's very important that you have a way of assessing each person's contribution so that the opportunities for disagreement are reduced.
Excellent. And while on the topic, right, I think that would make more sense as well. So, how important is culture in the early stages? You have managed to see many of the startups, you work with many of the startups as well, right? So, how important is company culture in those early stages, and how can startup cultivate a positive and productive culture?
Wow. You know, in business transformation, my days, I normally say, um, you cannot touch culture. It's not a tangible thing. It's not, you can't pick it up in your hand, but it is one of the loudest feelings. You walk into any office or any environment, and you can immediately feel the culture. You can see the culture. You can hear the culture. But it's such intangible. So culture is extremely important. But how it is done is by a deliberateness. If it's about, look, implementation is very important. We need to outline what we're going to do and we need to get it done, and everyone has to be held accountable. Then it has to come from the top. So, as startups, when you know each month or each quarter certain things need to be done, what is the culture that the visioner is imputing into it? If you know that your access to funding is dependent on you meeting XYZ criteria, how is that communicated to the team members? Do they really understand the implication of not adhering to it? So you have to start that culture from day one, and hopefully people imbibe it. By not doing it, what you allow is that you allow each person coming into that institution to bring their own dominant culture, and then you just have a potpourri of so many different kinds of culture. Some would decide to work to time, some would decide to not work to time, some would decide it doesn't really matter and everything. So culture is very important as a startup, and I dare say it helps eliminate a whole lot of the issues that normally come up. You're able to identify those that align and those that don't align very quickly. There was always the case of he or she is excellent technically. They can do XYZ with their eyes closed, but guess what? They are a disruptor of the team. They create an unbalanced environment and the rest. You have to decide: is that really the culture you may decide to hold that one person who's extremely talented, and then you lose everybody else. So it's really like a football team. There are 11 people. You might have the greatest of strikers, but if that striker is not fed, properly with the defenders, the midfield, and the rest of them, I'm sure you probably see that I do a bit of football. My husband makes sure that we know a lot of football. It's strategy. So you really just have to make sure that as founders, you're working as a team to implement your desired goals. And culture is very important.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. And it's great to see that you are also a football fan. At least you were forced to become one as well. Your house this week with this
And
European
guess what?
champs.
We're opposing
Thank
teams.
you.
We're really opposing teams.
Oh my God. I can't believe. I mean, those next couple of weeks will be very vibrant in
Yes.
your house. With that. Let's talk about innovation and grow, right? I mean, these are subject and topics you talk every day with startups founders. How can startup foster innovation within the teams and stay ahead of industry trends? I mean, what type of advice do you usually give to your startups as well?
Well, what is ironic is that um, I'll say even myself, and no one is the sole beneficiary of all wisdom. And if you think like that, you just might be surprised. So naturally sometimes innovation is not invention. Okay, innovation is it's just looking at things in a different way, or either to make it more efficient, more attractive, cheaper, better, whatever it is. And that is really why African founders should pat themselves on the back, because in the midst of not having everything, and when I say everything, I'm talking about the privilege of everything working. I mean, everything working, from housing to transport to financial systems to health to education, or agri, or climate, whatever it is you find it. Because everything is not quote unquote working, you're forced to think about, okay, so how can we How can we adapt? How can we change? And that is how innovation is built. And what that means is that your brain is actually forced to think of ways of doing things. Um, you'd be surprised if you have a little child. Try telling the child not to go over a particular way; they will crawl under. So it's important that startups allow innovation to happen within their companies. And this is where the team comes up. The visioner might have been the initial visioner, but maybe there's a brain fog or, cloud in terms of where they should go. A team that is working in what I would call a safe space can come up with ideas, can come up with options by virtue of their own level of exposure, either local exposure, international exposure, industry exposure, market exposure, um, even some different markets. You can bring a solution that works in a different market and bring it in here. So you must allow that to happen. If your business is very unsafe for ideas to come up, you will not become innovative. You will stick at supposedly what is working forever and ever and ever. And guess what? Competition might just pass you by. So, startups, by virtue of the fact they're startups, are meant to be extremely agile. They're meant to be able to pivot. They're meant to be able to think outside of the box, or as they say, think even without a box right now. Do not be constrained in what you think, but risk assess it, test it. Don't go overboard and be naive about, oh, it's just a great idea. You need to test it, you need to risk assess it, you need to, um, you know, compare it to other things. So innovation is within our hand reach, but it must be allowed to flow very quickly. And I dare say, put a business hat on it. Good to have might not necessarily be good in the bank. Um, and this is a problem that most founders have. They get stuck with the great idea, but it's not a business. It's not going to grow. No one's going to pay for it. It's just nice. You need to clothe it with a business.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Thank you again. Now let's talk a little bit about the post accelerator phase, right? So, what growth strategy have you seen work best for startup in the post accelerator phase?
So, what we've seen, first of all, is the efforts you put in at the accelerator stage in terms of understanding the value proposition of the startup, their stage, and how they have progressed would allow post acceleration to happen, and even data. And we encourage our startups to you know be very, very familiar with how data can help provide insights into it. So just as we preach as an accelerator as well, data is important, which means regular updates to the accelerator. If you're an alumni, we would ask for regular updates. What is happening? How are things happening? How are things progressing? Now, when we use that word progressing, it kind of connotes that you really should be moving forward. Guess what? Sometimes you may even have moved backwards because that's just the name of the game. But the information is what will help the support, post acceleration stage. What led to such situations? What have you done? Have the macro situation upset the cart in terms of how you positioned? Is your solution, technology solution, still relevant? Has a new player come in and upset, your plans in terms of your, uh, you know, market penetration? Has the funding that you expected not come through? In the past 2 years, so many businesses that were, expecting certain funds to come in have had absolute no, 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 no. So what does that mean? You'd be surprised, just like in COVID days where it looked like, oh, because there's COVID, nothing is going to happen. A lot of innovative ideas to stay afloat have had to come to fore. So Our post acceleration, first of all, is keeping in contact with it. This sometimes can be a bit difficult because startups are busy, as you know, trying to grow their business, but we try to keep them informed, because that information would also let us know where we can create value between other startups, either within their cohort or outside of their cohort, create such handshakes. Um, and again, when opportunity presents itself to us, we can actually put these businesses forward as alumni, and then showcase what we've been able to do and partner them in securing some, opportunities that we feel will support them going forward.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. As you can see, I'm having some technical issues, so my other host microphone is not working. I will be joining you from the Noir Diaspora microphone, of course. And we are coming almost at the end of our session. So just let me know if you can hear any noise in the background, and if not, that will be perfect. Mopi, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Perfect, perfect. So let's talk about success stories and lesson learned, right? You were able to highlight amazing success that you have had with the startup in Ivory Coast, right? I'm guessing that you have many of these success stories as well since you have launched for the last couple of years. We've seen you successfully launch an accelerator program. As a director in accelerator program, we've seen you launch successfully a VC firm as a managing partner when it comes to, Afri Global Call. So can you share another success story, from your accelerator program, just maybe even from your VC firm, right, that has stand out to you, and what were the key factor in their success?
Okay. Um, First of all, I will put it out there that even and I know this may not go down well with everyone, but we we decided to go down this route when we set up the accelerator to be a fee paying accelerator. And I know that sounds strange because normally accelerators are also equity investing, at the accelerator stage, which means, you get into an accelerator, you're almost quote unquote guaranteed a certain equity amount. And that is the kind of compensation for supporting the startup. Well, our accelerator, Night Ventures, does not do that. In fact, the the startups pay. And the reason why we felt this was we were also over the years seeing how, rightly or wrongly so, I'm not really blaming anyone, but rightly or wrongly so, cap tables were becoming extremely um, unattractive when it came to fundraising stage after acceleration, to VCs and the rest of them. And you must understand the mindset of investors. If cap tables are already looking extremely um, unattractive, no matter how good the solution is, they may not go in. And that really is because their name is investor. That investor means is what I'm going to get out of it. So it would affect valuation, it would affect, um, you know, um, expectations of returns and the rest of them. And that really was because, you know, at the acceleration stage where they are still early, they really are still early. They are not yet, they've already had rounds of angels, they've already had rounds of acceleration investment, and then they're coming into VC. So we felt sometimes the founders should be allowed to build their business and then come to the table, and be able to negotiate terms for equity investing on better tables without having the burden of a very difficult, you know, or messy cap table. And I'm not saying that applies to all, but for that, we felt that the businesses should understand that acceleration is a service, and it creates your investability. to be invested in afterwards. So we are a fund pay. Now, did that go down well with everyone? Maybe initially not, but part of the success is that um, it's just like our market penetration. We knew exactly what we were looking for, and we have been able to create a channel for that. So success for us has mean that now we are already not having to, explain ourselves of why that is a fee paying accelerator. However, the carrot is that because AfriGlocal VC is strategically aligned to um, Knight Ventures, the accelerator, there is a high probability that um, if there is a thesis fit, and I stress that if there's a thesis fit, then AfriGlocal can cherry pick from that area. And what we found is the issues are deal flow, but deal flow that is extremely of good quality in terms of the solution, in terms of the whole packaging and the business, as well as the founders. So that gives more of an opportunity where you've been able to go through the accelerator and then you have access to venture capital, either directly or through co-investment with other VC firms who know that we have a good deal flow from this area, and can be sure of a return because the cap table wouldn't be too messy. So that's a big success for us. On the VC stage, we've also found that we want to be very intentional about having investors who understand the African founder, not just the deep pockets. Um, and this has been a continuous journey for us because we know that unfortunately, not everyone understands the African terrain. Everyone thinks Africa is one country. It's not. It's not. There are differences. Obviously, there are four main blocks, but what is happening within each of those areas, it creates, the nuances that are peculiar to it. So we've had, sustained interest in on the VC side. We're continually fundraising. Let me put that out there. But really, it's to make sure that there is an alignment between the interest as well as the support in that area. We are extremely happy about how our alumni are going on to build great businesses. There have been alliances even between the startups that have come from Knight Ventures. We're almost becoming a, a conduit for some large corporates who would want to position as corporate ventures, where it is a corporate firm who is actually providing the venture capital, not a venture capital fund. But they also need a pipeline. And these discussions are just showcasing a very good pipeline of the work that we're doing at Knight Ventures, as an accelerator deal flow to different areas. And it is also serving the startups with very, very good handshakes to their own growth, which is what they desire at the end of the day. If you have a huge, two big corporate institutions across Africa who have invested in you because of what you're doing, then I think we've done pretty well there.
Absolutely, absolutely. As you talked, of course, always about your success, but you also talked about the lesson that you've learned of the failure while building, right, during this entire fire side chart as well. So, what lesson have you learned from startup that didn't succeed, if you can, repeat them? And then what can others learn from those experiences?
So every day is a lesson in class. um, and I think, one of the lessons, first of all, that we learned as well was, we needed, and I think I mentioned this earlier, in terms of our selection, to be extremely more deliberate. Um, Sometimes when you make assumptions without true testing, it doesn't always pan out well. So um, the lessons we've learned are to be very upfront about what we're looking for and how we will measure what we're looking for. Number one, less time is wasted on both parts, and then you're left with those who really align. That's a huge lesson Um, and it's very important that you learn such lessons early when it's not too costly, so that you don't go on. And I will extend this to founders. Do not wait to be perfect before you move out, because it is those lessons that will let you become perfect. Once you're waiting for the most perfect solution, the most perfect, you won't get market information, you won't get competitor reaction, you won't get viability, indices. So fail, fail quickly so that you can move, you know, better in the market. This is really my sincere understanding. Even we have learned from that, and it just makes you a little bit more perfect each time with each reiteration. What we've also found is that we need a lot more education. Founders uh, sometimes are a little bit shallow in terms of their understanding of what it means to be a founder. There needs to be more depth of understanding of what it would take from them and what they need to do. So these are lessons that we've learned. We don't make assumptions anymore, and that's very important. But what's very critical as well is, as much as we're advocating for African startups, do not be oblivious to what is happening across the world. And that's why our name, AfriGlocal. And if you look up the meaning of glocal, it means local solutions, which is the CAL. Uh, the GLOW is global perspectives. So um, African startups should obviously, start within their vicinity, but don't be oblivious to what is happening across the world. It's the same blood that runs between all our skins and the rest of them. And some of these solutions can actually serve in other areas as well. So have that in mind. Don't be too hasty to move, because you need to create depth in your own area and positive understanding and success before you can make such steps. But just don't leave that out of your radar.
Absolutely, absolutely. Build logo, think global, and I could have not said that better. Thank you so much again for your time and commitment. We've been here over 2 hours. We still have a few questions left, and then we can, free everyone to go and continue this Saturday with their loved ones. So let's talk about the future of accelerator in Africa, right? So, how do you see the role of startup accelerator evolving in the next 5 to 10 years, Mobi? Please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Um, as with everything, I think the circumstances excuse me, will define how things would change. Um, I definitely think that um, acceleration, there would be a merge of um, businesses, established businesses, or should I call them? Um, when I say businesses, even government parastatals that will have to have thriving units for innovation. And what I see is, because Africa, we have such a teeming population, um, very youthful population. The things that go hand in hand with that means you just have to come up with, you know, um, very dynamic and proactive um, environments that would enable creativity to happen. Status quo is definitely going to be challenged. So businesses that refuse to be nimble will be left behind. So accelerators may become maybe part and parcel of government institutions where new ideas are coming out from. What's the new best thing? And then they are, hopefully, there may be sustained capital to go with it. Our universities across Africa, which may have been very theoretical, will become a bit more practical. I think that has happened, in the US and the rest of them. You see entrepreneurial cities growing around the universities where, you know, the theory is there, but they're able to exhibit some of the practical desires. So communities would develop around institutions where you have a balance of theory, but also an opportunity for creativity, innovativeness, and acceleration would be a mix of capital, a mix of talent, a mix of resources, infrastructure. Um, Acceleration would no more just be founders; it would be um, good, good grounds to get all the resources and then move out into the real world. There will be uh, places where you can actually really explore and be supported, and I think that would be good for Africa, um, so that talent and ideas can be exchanged in a much more structured and fluid way rather than this dog eat dog kind of approach.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mope. When it, of course, as we stay on the subject of the African startup ecosystem, right? Everyone involved in the ecosystem is aware that it is a dynamic and rapidly evolving when it comes to that. That is driven by, again, just like you have emphasized at the beginning already, by unique challenges and opportunities as well, right? So, as an expert, you've seen what fintech innovation have done for the African ecosystem, right? You have witnesses pretty much of the reality of industry like agri-tech, transport, logistic, pretty much also have managed to help involve when it comes to the African ecosystem. So when you look at these trends, well, at least when you look at these changes and you look at this success when it comes to the ecosystem, what new trend or technology do you think will shape the future of the startup ecosystem in Africa?
So, very interesting question, and something that actually is at the core of our VC direction. Um, I personally, and again, these are my personal views, I feel fintech is, permit me to say, the John the Baptist. It's gone ahead. It's promoted, the possibilities of what could happen, challenging traditional financial institutions and showcasing how technology infused with financial institutions could become a whole lot more dynamic and is addressing other challenges. But guess what? That's not really the all in all. It's just opened the door. Now there's a whole big space. And what we're going to see is intersectionalities of opportunities. Fintech may no more be the plain vanilla, where it's just remittances. There are just too many remittance companies. There's no more differentiation or payments. What we're going to see is, intersectionalities with all the different areas, still addressing the issues. If it's about financial inclusivity, if it's about efficiency, if it's about um, the same way, blockchain is creating inroads into agriculture for tracking, for visibility, or is it a KYC or onboarding? It will be embedded into some other areas, insurance, fintech. All of these things will become almost embedded. Even banking will become a service that's embedded in retail. Simple things. It's no more. The future may no more just be as we see it now, but infrastructurally, some things would have to happen. And that is why, for us, we've said we want those visionary people. We call them digital infrastructure bases because it's the infrastructure upon which a lot of new new solutions will be built upon. If you're building these solutions without a great foundation, it's very likely to fall. And guess what? Until that infrastructure is tied in, then most of these solutions may not, survive the day. So it is riding on the digitalization of our economies, of our environments, our markets, and then creating more inclusivity, creating more opportunities to handshake, with different areas. And everything that we need to do, whether it is water, health, education, health, whatever it is, can then ride upon these things. So I think there's still a whole lot more. Wealth is going to be defined in different avenues now. Wealth is no more just your bank account. It'll be calculated in different ways. So that's my area of interest. But I also see intersectionalities with so many other industries and markets.
Perfect. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you again for the commitment to this session today. We have two questions left, people, of course, with our last remark. While you're here, please check the chat. We have shared a survey for you to respond. That will allow us to have an idea of the type of funders we have here, but also type of expert that we have here. And of course, to know if anyone have ever went through an accelerator program to grow, right? So we have a few closing questions for you, Miss Mope Abudu. What, you know, what one piece of advice will you give to early stage founders looking to join an accelerator program?
Okay, so first of all, I'll be happy to receive your application. Just check us out online. Night Ventures. Just type in Night Ventures. But generally, um, my advice to startups is check out, do your own due diligence about the accelerator to know in terms of their intentionality of supporting you during and after. The reason why I say this is um, there's the brand, which is very important because the brand carries a lot of weight. The brand does open doors, but you need to go into those doors. Let me try and say that you need to go into those doors. So your region, or where you are based, or your solution is based, requires um, support that understands that market. Um, and that is because you want to accelerate in that market. The whole point of going for an acceleration, I would believe, is to grow, is to become more relevant within the markets that you're operating. So do your due diligence to understand where their strength is. And that strength would give you a better understanding of that area. I would also say that it's important you see how you can you have some leverage on you putting forward what you need from that accelerator, being able to communicate what you need. Um, Accelerators should not also become so bureaucratic where they just give you a cookie cutting kind of approach. Take it or leave it. If you're able to have communication to discuss, so some level of, I mean, it's difficult when it's a large one, but some level of um, not really customization, but individualization might be helpful at the acceleration stage. And that is because every business is slightly different. You may require some support at that level. So that's my advice that you should try to look out for.
And how can our audience stay in touch with you? And of course, follow your amazing work, both as an accelerator director, right, for Kinao Venture, but also as a managing, partner as a Afri Global Core receiver.
Okay, I am available to connect online. Um, Look me up on LinkedIn, Mope Abudu, Mope. ABUDU. Um, I'll be happy to connect. At least I see, I'm a little bit, you know, slightly active on that, at least within the time frames that I have. Um, I encourage you, please, to follow our company pages on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. Night Ventures, as well as AfriGlocal. Just type in those names, you would see it. Night Ventures is with a K. And the story behind that is the Knight is a follow on from Knight and Bishop Consultancy. I do play a bit of chess, and it's all about strategy. Um, I'm an operator turned investor. That was my route into it. So I'm very, very comfortable with building and doing things rather than just glorifying things. And then AfriGlocal is also online. Yeah, feel free to connect with me on those stages.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you all for joining us today. Your participation and engagement have been invaluable, as you know by now. We really hope that you found this session insightful and inspiring. The future of the startup ecosystem we know in Africa is bright for anyone that is involved with that. And with the knowledge and strategy shared today, we are all better equipped to contribute, right? As we should, pretty much. So remember that the key to success, just like we have managed to say through this entire fireside chat, lies in continuously learning, collaboration, and of course, let's stay connected so that we keep the conversation going as we build a stronger and more innovative community together. Mope, I really want to take the time to thank you seriously through this entire session of 2 hours on a Saturday. Okay, well, you should be enjoying time with your family, most importantly, the football, day pretty much. But you have been amazing because again, your expertise and insight have provided us with, a deeper understanding of the trends and technology shaping, I would say, the future and startup of, or startup in Africa, but also accelerator programs. Truly, your contribution is appreciated. So I really, really, we are grateful for your time and knowledge that you have shared with us, and we look forward to seeing the continued impact of your work that you continue to do and hope to collaborate again with you in the future pretty much as you navigate and you continue to build these amazing companies that you have managed to do for the last couple of years. All right, so people, thank you all for your time. So as we wrap up today's fireside chat, let's take the inspiration and knowledge we have gained and put it into action. Like we always say, together we can drive innovation, we can create opportunities and make a lasting impact on the African startup ecosystem. Okay, so thank you once
Thank you
again.
so much. Thank you, Marie.
Mm.
I really appreciate it. And thank you to the platform, Noah Diaspora, and to all the people. I really appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again. And we also wish you all the best, and please, people, have a great day. It is an amazing Saturday. It is sunny out there. Okay, so to build the Africa we want, we need collaboration. So let's continue to do so and let's continue to uplift each other as well. Mopi, thank you so much, Queen. And I look forward to our next conversation. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.